name is Zakar Dosi, as you all may know, and today our topic is South Sudan, and we'll give you a brief history overview of how South Sudan became its own sovereign nation in 2011.
Sudan has been divided by war for centuries. The Arab North preyed on the black Christian South. In the early 80s, oil was discovered. The war intensified. Finally, after 6 decades of war, both sides realized they needed to find peace to take advantage of the black gold. In July of 2011, South Sudan finally achieved its own independence and became the world's newest nation.
South Sudan is East Central Africa, south of Sudan, north of Uganda and Kenya, west of Ethiopia. South Sudan is hot with seasonal rainfall influenced by the annual shift of the intertropical convergence zone. Rainfall is heaviest in the upland areas of the south and diminishes to north of the terrain. South Sudan has a numerous number of ethnic groups. The main ethnic group that resides in South Sudan is the Dinka population, which consists of 35.8% of the population, followed by the Nur population, which consists of 15.6% of the population. Although we have multiple different ethnic groups in South Sudan, such as the Kakwa, the Kuku, the Mandari, the Dinga, the Nadaga, the Bango, the Lango, and the Akali. The primary language that is spoken in South Sudan is the English language, although we do speak Arabic, which includes the Juba and Sudanese language. South Sudan has 2 primary religions that we focus on, which is the animist religion and the Christian religion. You guys are probably familiar with the Christian religion, but the animist religion is the worldview that non-human entities, such as animals, plants, and inanimate objects or phenomena, possess a spiritual essence. Religion stayed the same on the Passover to New South Sudan. South Sudan has a legislative branch, which consists of a bicameral national legislation, which consists of a Council of States, 50 seats. The Council of States is established by national level, courts of appeal, high courts, county courts, state level, high courts, customary courts, other specialized courts, and tribunals. Cabinets, which is National Council of Ministers, are appointed by the President and approved by a resolution from the Legislative Assembly. Our elections, which is presidents elected by a popular vote for a 4-year term. Elections was last held on 11/15, April 2010. The next election has been postponed from 2015 to 2017 or 2018. We also have a judicial branch, which is highest court. Supreme Court of South Sudan consists of 7 justice systems, including the court president and deputy president, and organizing system panels of 3 justices, except when sitting as a constitutional panel of all 7 justices. Judges are appointed by the president upon proposal of the Justice Service, a 9-member judicial and administrative body. Subordinate courts, chief of states, and head of government. Our head of government in South Sudan is President Salva. Our chief of state is also President Salva. We have a number of different political parties in South Sudan, which consist of the AU, the IRBD, the ICAO, the IDA, the IFAD, the IFC, Interpol, which you're probably familiar of, IOM, the ITU, the UN, and these political parties are all shaped together in order to help shape society, to give our leaders help when making decisions and to know if the decision is going to be beneficial to the society or detrimental to society. 3 years after South Sudan's historic referendum for independence and 9 years since the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, South Sudan is again riven by conflict, not with Khartoum, however, but with itself. It is devastating for the people of South Sudan and for those of us in the U.S. government and broader international community who have all made enormous investment in this country in the hope of seeing it escape the terrible cycles of violence that marked its past and now threaten to destroy its future. The cessation of hostilities that was signed by the parties on January 23rd was a critical step. Unfortunately, hostilities and attacks against civilians continue. We are deeply concerned by reports of serious human rights abuses and violations that have been committed throughout South Sudan by both parties to the conflict, including those reported in the UN's first report on abuses committed since the conflict began. Both parties have agreed to continue to violate this agreement and commit abuse against civilians. Most recently with the anti-government forces assault on Malako, and before that, pro-government forces attacks on Lear and Guardian. A true cessation of hostilities is our most pressing priority, and the United States government is providing significant financial support to the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, led and monitoring and verification mechanism which will monitor and identify violators of the cessation of hostility agreement.
You know, in Sudan, it was made up of mostly Christians, Arabs, non-Arabs, animists, and Christians. But most of the Arabs and Muslims lived in the northern part. The South Sudanese people were made up of Christians and animists. The government in Sudan placed these people that were Christian and animists and non-Arabs in places that they could not have power. They weren't getting the same resources that the northern Sudanese people were. So it began a war, a civil war in Sudan. After the civil war, for about 22 years lasted, and it ended in 2005, the South Sudanese people and the Northern Sudanese people signed a peace agreement. The decision can be traced back to the Northern Sudanese government's consistent policy of marginalization, which means to place another people in little influence, importance, or power.
Education in South Sudan is modeled after the education system of the Republic of Sudan. Primary education consists of 8 years, followed by 3 years of secondary education, and then 4 years of university instruction. The 8 plus 3 plus 4 system was intact since 1990. The primary language at all levels is English, as compared to the Republic of Sudan, where the language of instruction is Arabic. South Sudan military is the Sudan's People Liberation Army. 18 is the legal minimum age for voluntary military service. Sudan signed a revised action plan with the UN in March 2012 to demobilize all child soldiers with the SPLA. Sudan has weapons production company called the Military Industrial Corporation. This entry gives spending on defense programs for the most recent years available as percent of gross domestic product. And the GDP is also calculated on exchange rate basis. Sudan now receives most of its military equipment from the People's Republic of China and Russia.